and maybe they're still in that victim place or woe's me place, because they're shining too much light on their pain. When you take that light and you move it somewhere else, and you invest in other people, you volunteer, you hear other people's stories, all of a sudden your pain is less. Or at least you feel like camaraderie in the pain, not the same desperate pain.
Nancy, welcome to the Point of Impact. So glad to have you here.
So happy to be here. Thank you.
Well, you're no stranger to, to blind interviews, radio, TV, and coaching, and all of that. Nonetheless, we had a little bit of some technical issues before recording. That's pretty much par for the course when it comes to me and tech, but it's always fun when it's two blind people talking. What I wanted to know real is about your TV show and radio show. It's called Living Full Out.
Yes.
And first question being, what is that? What does it mean to live full out?
Yeah. Thank you for asking. It's to answer that question, I'm just going to step back to when I created it. So back before I created Living Full Out, I I was doing real estate, and I found so many people that were stretching. They thought they'll never get their own home. They couldn't find the relationship they wanted. They were worried about their finances. And to be honest, I think a lot of times people, they just want that motivation, that oxygen. They want to feel free. They want to feel like they're living their purpose. And I remember sketching on a napkin with my friend Kit at the time, real estate's great and all, but there's got to be more. And so we created Living Full Out, the company, and that further grew to the radio show, Living Full Out, the radio show, and that was syndicated all over different stations into the TV show. And that got picked up by the Las Vegas television network to become kind of a live TV show that brought to life the visuals behind some of these stories. But I'll tell you what, when I'm interviewing someone, and you know this, right? Blindness is no walk in the park. But I hear stories of people who have gone through it: poverty, homelessness, financial loss, sexually assaulted, a disability, and some of them the rarest of the rarest. And the grit, tenacity, resilience, and the how did they get to where they are, that's what I discover in every interview. So it's really powerful. A lot of people feel like it's a therapy session a little bit when they do an interview with me. But on the other end, if anybody relates to any of what any of my guests have gone through, you just come out a little wiser, a little taller, and a little bit brighter eyed. And that's the goal.
Okay, I was curious about that because I wasn't sure if you were referring to maybe a blind nudist colony or something, full out, or
No,
maybe.
no, no, no. Although, hey, we'll take listeners from all kinds. We'll take the
Okay,
nudist call.
I don't know. It seems kind of productive, anyways.
Yeah,
But but cost effective. Uh, However, you live in Huntington Beach,
I
California.
do. Surf
Right?
City, USA. Yep.
Yeah, I love it out there. My dad's in Laguna Beach. I spent summers uh, right down the road from you.
Very cool.
Um, and
Yeah.
then, of course, living full out. And we just had Pride Month, so it could have been something else entirely. I don't know. So
Yep.
thank you for the explanation.
Yep.
Uh, I'm curious too. How is Huntington,
Mhm.
as far as accessibility and navigation on the sidewalks and streets? How's that place set up?
There's a couple different ways I could answer that. So I have lived in this city for 8 years, and I will tell you it's walkable. That's one of the reasons I landed here, a walkable score of like 98% where I am. But to do that, there were, when I first got here, signals that didn't have the beeps, right? They didn't have the chimes. They didn't have the walk, walk, walk. And actually, last year, I was walking with a sighted friend. Now, granted, it was 9 o'clock at night, but a car took a left. They didn't see us. They hit me. They hit my friend. I went flying 25 feet, landed on the ground. After finally putting Nancy back together, um, I contacted the city and they saw my accident. There was a police report and everything, and they were super kind. They right away put in what I needed to confidently cross the streets. And so now I can grab my guide dog Frost and we can get to the beach and around the town on our own. We don't need to call FaceTime or anyone to help. We're not playing Frogger. We can't help it if someone takes a left or if they're texting and not paying attention. Well, that's something you can't help. But the city itself, wow, they really rose to the occasion when I needed them.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Uh, Kind of in the country, so to speak. There's not a whole lot of pedestrian friendly roads right around me, but not too far from good services. But I'm curious. In fact, that's why I have a whole podcast. Maybe I should stop saying I'm curious. But
you
uh,
can you can always be curious.
I love it. It drives my kids crazy when I keep asking them questions about what they want to do and where they're going to be and what they're up to when they're quiet. Yeah. But when did you find out that you were losing your vision?
So when I was 16, and I have two older sisters. So at the time, one was 18 and one was 21. And our 21-year-old came back. It was around Thanksgiving time. The whole family was at the house and she was crying. And she had basically been told she had retinitis pigmentosa and she was going to go blind. Then the doctor called my mom, said, "Hey, listen, I want to check your other two daughters." So we all three went in with my single mom and they checked us one by one. And sure enough, we all three had retinitis pigmentosa. And he pretty much looked at my mom and said, "All of your daughters will most likely go blind by 40. You all should make some plans." And I don't know, when you're 16, you want to get your license, you want to go to prom, you want to go to college, you want to see the world. And so that is kind of how I found out. And of course, whenever you have an eye condition or many different conditions, there's always this random, a cure will happen in 5 years, 5 years, 5 years. I'm in my 40s now, and that 5 years never happened. But what did happen is as soon as we got the diagnosis, it was game on. We went, my middle sister and I, we went to Europe. We traveled, we saw 26 countries. My grandparents said, if you study a language, we'll send you there. I had studied Japanese. I went to Japan. So I really tried to see as much as I could. So I can say, so when I hear like a movie, I can't see the movie, but when I hear a movie and it's located in France, I've been to France. I did see France when I could see. And now, as you know, so much is just movies and TV or through what I hear. But that's kind of how it all kind of unfolded.
Well, that's that's tough news, but a wonderful way to accept the uncontrollable and control what you can. I think it's fantastic. In fact, I'm a very avid traveler, outdoors type person, and I'm extremely grateful for the time I had with my eyesight and the places, the opportunities that I get to see before losing my sight. So I'm sure that uh, traveler, that adventurer in you didn't change inside. It just the methods did after. So
Absolutely. And like you, I just stayed curious, blind, sighted, no sight. You can't, sight doesn't define the personality, it doesn't define the person. And so, yes, I'm with you. I still kept on trotting.
well, what do you say to folks that haven't uh, I don't flip that switch. You know, the uh, victim mentality. It, it, it's so much nicer on the other side when you just you accept that inevitability and start to work with it versus just being stuck by your situation.
It's interesting that you asked that question. So, again, out of the three of us, I'm the one who accepts it the most. Our older sister, she has 5 kids, she's really busy. But the middle sister, she's resistant to this blindness thing. What I did that really got me to really open up and to understand it is I went to the Braille Institute. I hung out with people that were visually impaired and blind. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of cool cats, right? Really fun, outgoing people. And I appreciate so much that the things that organizations allow us to experience. You can surf and be blind. You can horseback ride. You can learn guitar and piano. And I think the more you hang out with people that are blind, and the more you find out the how did you go blind, the story behind it. Sometimes it's an eye condition like mine and RP, and sometimes they lost it maybe in the military or it was diabetes or whatever. And I
Hmm.
think that bonds us all. So the more you can actually dip your toe, then maybe your whole foot into organizations that support the blind, blindness becomes less scary because then you start to learn of all these tools. I mean, anybody in my friend group, family group will tell you my nickname is the Fearless Flyer because I can go really fast. In fact, I can go faster than most sighted people, which all the things I do in a day.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that last part. You go faster doing what?
No, like a lot of sighted people, like I can look things up on my computer with, voice over technology or the things
Um,
we do on our phone. Yes, I don't have eyes that can quickly like skim something, but when you get going with low vision aids, talking devices, you can up the speed. I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, I can go really fast. I move fast in my day.
that's fantastic. I know people are sometimes uh, astounded by how quickly I can respond to text messages or emails. Not the emails with you, which
That's okay.
were terribly delayed. I did once hear somebody say that being an adult was starting every email with "sorry for the delay in response," but I just pull out. I have a Bluetooth keyboard, and because I can't, I cannot do the touch typing on the screen. It takes so long to like listen for the uh, right letter.
Yep.
But with a keyboard, I can type as fast as somebody can dictate. But um, that's it's really incredible. On the other hand, what is it? Spreadsheets like Excel. That's like playing Minesweeper to me. No, thank you.
Oh, I do a lot of spreadsheets. But yeah.
Well, how did you? Why do you think that this mentality, the I guess growth over fixed mindset, uh, was that a family thing? Was that because you were going through it with your sister? Did you have a community, or was this just kind of a natural personality trait of yours?
So here's the thing. It's interesting. Everybody knows I love love. I watch and listen to a ton of Hallmark. I gonna go to karaoke. I'm singing love songs. But the bulk of my time, I've kind of, had relationships kind of in and out of them. So I've noticed though, when in a relationship, I can see how it is so easy to rely on your partner. And
Mhm.
I really give it to husbands and wives and those who are dating who don't rely on their partner. Now, compared to again my two sisters, they're both married. They rely a lot on their partners. Because I'm single, I don't. And I will tell you that I guess there's two ways my mindset could have gone. I could have said, woe's me, I have no one to help me, I think I'll just stay in my condo and play it safe. Or I could say, gosh, you know what, I don't know when Mr. Right's going to come, but I think I would like to go to karaoke and it's at night. Or I'd like to go to the beach and walk there with my guide dog. Or, when you're single, you do things yourself. When you drop a cap on the ground, I don't have somebody who's going to go looking for it for me, and I got to get to it before my guide dog gets to it. So I would call and use Be My Eyes or another, app
Hmm.
on my phone. So the thing is it's for me actually being single has forced me to rise, to really become resourceful. And I just encourage those who do have really, really helpful partners, accept the help in the pinches of time, but then I think there's just something to be said for really
Hmm.
learning how to do something independently.
That's true. It, it, it's a crutch or enabler. If you have somebody else doing it for you, you don't have to go through the hard work.
Hmm.
Which which of course there's pain. There's information in pain if we're willing to learn how to listen to it and grow from it. And I think that's the whole point is doing it yourself. There's that growth pain.
Yep,
You know,
absolutely.
go ahead.
Oh no, no, I you know this, right? The growth of low vision tech, right? It's not a snap. You've got to learn keystrokes, you've got to learn a lot of things. But your world just opens up. And the world has opened up so much so that a lot of these tech companies, they have, accessible departments that we can call. So, I mean, as I move along and I see how much, I mean, I have Spectrum and they have accessibility and navigation that I can use to navigate the cable. That's great. Apple, of course, they have disability services. Microsoft does. Amazon does. And when you start to just see how much the world is really championing for us to be strong and independent, then it's really on us to grow.
It's true. After a certain extent, you can't expect every accommodation to be made for you. You've got to go out there and actually walk the path. You got to take those steps and go do it. Now, I'm not saying that the companies, the cities, whatever the area is, shouldn't make it more accessible, but access is is leveling the playing field. Then you got to go do. So
Yes.
what were you doing? You said you started in real estate?
Well, actually, if I really go back, I started when I got my degree from the University of Oregon in broadcasting and psychology. My very first job was out in New York, at Good Morning America, and helping with production there. And that was my early broadcasting years. And then I went out to Entertainment Tonight in LA. But during those early 20s is when the vision loss was starting to take some of its biggest jumps. And then I, for various reasons, went into real estate, did that for 13 years. But it was during that 13 years that the lines on the road started to disappear and I had to give up driving and made accommodations for that too. And that I hired an assistant and learned the bus system. And so as my vision changed and my careers kind of changed, I tried to change with the times, right? And then that day came when I started living full out in 2008, sketching it all out on the napkin and left real estate to jump into creating this company myself. And so that's kind of been the path. But along the way, it's interesting. I was always trying to find my home and where I could still be Nancy, yet thrive and make an impact, right? And so the great thing is doing what I do today, interviewing people for a living, whether it's on TV or radio, I don't need
Hmm.
eyes to do that. To lead Living Full Out the company and be the CEO of that, I actually don't need eyes to do that. So my entire world has been built around not needing my eyes to do it.
That's fantastic. And you were talking earlier about uh, going to the Braille Institute, learning how to be blind and the tools to you know make the world more accessible to the blind and to do what you're passionate about.
100%.
When I went to blind school, I was a service member, and I went to one of the VA's blind rehabilitation centers, and I was I was blown away when they walked me into the wood shop, and there were all of these power tools and table saws, and I said, "You really put?" I mean, I hadn't before going blind, which was literally in a flash. I'd never considered blindness. I never tried to put myself in a blind person's shoes until I was thrust into them. So there I was at the VA hospital in a blind uh, wood shop going, no way. This is awesome. Uh,
Great.
it was the coolest. So what was something that maybe surprised you? When did you start having the aha moments about what was really open to you despite going blind?
Well, and you've probably impacted, felt the same impact, but I was always a good girl, a good student. When I go think about the college years, I was never an A plus pluser, right? But I definitely did my best and I did good. But what blindness has taught me is to be resourceful. What blindness has taught me is literally I take that blank canvas of life and I can design it and color it however I want it to be. I literally dream in color. And it's interesting when I meet somebody for the first time, I don't know homeless. I don't know race. I don't know what stature they are in terms of, their class, right? But I can smell. And when somebody has nice cologne or good perfume, I'm like, that is awesome. Wow, what is that? Or if somebody has a really warm hug or that warm handshake, then I'm like, oh my gosh, it's so nice to meet you. You're so cuddly. And, like people's personalities come through in those embraces, or sometimes just like when I go to somebody's house, I will appreciate the house differently than they will. Like the beautiful smooth granite, or I
Hmm.
love walls that are curved, not pointy. I can feel the texture of certain paints on the walls, or the fabric of somebody's cozy or leather couch, or so I feel like I've kind of won the life sensation lottery, meaning that if I had been 2020 Nancy, I don't think I would have experienced life with all the depths of the hearing, the touching, the tasting, the smelling.
Hmm.
It's actually made it a richer experience.
That's great. I was just thinking, walking into somebody else's house and going, oh, it's time to change the litter box.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, yes, and that is okay to say.
But you're absolutely right. Losing one sense, you definitely get to appreciate. You have maybe a better insight and paying greater attention to the other senses, the sense of touch and hearing and smell, all of that, and just a greater appreciation and gratitude for what you do have and what is still available, and uh, pursuing those passions. I know I I love woodworking. I love tinkering. I was used to be a bomb tech in the army, so when I was
Wow, cool.
yeah, I got to work with electronics and explosives and get to blow things up for a living. And I'm still kind of a tinkerer. My my son and I are just getting started on DIY boombox builds. These are pretty cool. So they're
Wow.
like car audio, but you shove them into a thing like a Pelican case. And you can take Bluetooth and take it to the beach. But it's something we can do together and something I'm interested in. And it's so funny how people are like, how do you do that? Well, you figure it out, right? And there are many things that
How
you
many
and I
fingers
can do
do we have,
without our
Aaron?
eyes.
How many fingers do we have? How many are we working with?
So tell me about the show, the radio show, the TV show, and um, yeah, what what's the passion behind that? And um, well, how do you do it?
So the thing about the TV show, again, what makes it special is if somebody has gone through something, and we've had a lot of people who have had snowboarding accidents. We had this race car driver, and he was racing and he hit a wall, and so many, might become quadriplegics. But yet they go on and they do amazing things. That same person who, became paraplegic due to a snowboarding accident, she actually does like uh, surfing today. She does CrossFit. She does a whole bunch of things and she competes athletically. Being in a wheelchair doesn't stop her. Or somebody like that race car driver. Today, he still races cars. He has through AI technology, if he shifts his head to the right or to the left, or he has a straw in his mouth, if he breathes in, it's the brake. If he breathes out, that's the gas. And he can drive so fast without, having the full ability to do it himself with his hands and so forth. And the thing is, it's amazing when we are given rough news, what would seem like, devastating circumstances. That's when people rise. And so, through the power of the TV show, we tell these stories. And I could go on and on about so many, but I really encourage people that whether they want to listen to the Living Full Out radio show, whether they want to check out the TV show, the thing is, you can't help be inspired. Like I'm inspired by you, Aaron. Now, I don't know if I'm going to go to a wood shop and start, sawing, but I'll tell you what, that inspires me because I think to myself, why not? I should try that. I wonder if Braille Institute has that, or if you hear somebody do something else extraordinary, it's an opportunity, in the words of what you were saying at the beginning. Be curious. Life, it doesn't matter if you have a disability, it doesn't matter if you're full throttle and everything's perfect, right? Not that life ever is. It's about jumping in the ring and trying, being curious, giving it a whirl.
I think that's one of the biggest things is that we got to tell our stories because
Mhm.
it's about there's a reciprocal effect when you tell your story and you inspire others. You're being uh, in service to them, but that creates purpose and meaning in your own life. What was the book was a uh, Book of Joy, Dalai Lama, Archbishop Desmond Tutu, and talking about how uh, witnessing a young boy in Africa who, uh, was starving. It was in that kind of pain,
Yeah,
relieved, caring about that person, that young boy, alleviated some of the pain in his. I think it was the Archbishop telling the story. Uh, alleviated his own pain just by caring, by empathy and compassion. You weren't thinking about your own pain. So you you think in a similar a similar way where you live a life of service, not just the show, the TV show, the radio show, but you're also coaching, correct?
I am. And it's so interesting how you asked me earlier about, what would you say to those people that aren't where I am, and maybe they're still in that victim place or woe's me place, because they're shining too much light on their pain. When you take that light and you move it somewhere else, and you invest in other people, you volunteer, you hear other people's stories, all of a sudden your pain is less. Or at least you feel like camaraderie in the pain, not the same desperate pain. So, for anybody who's in a bleeding hearted, desperate pain right now, I promise you, maybe there's someone not exactly in your same experience, but I promise there's others who know a similar pain.
It's really hard sometimes to not
Yep.
focus right on the pain. The pain is blinding, so to speak. Forget the pun. But it's like the smoke detector going off. The alarm isn't the. It's so distracting that maybe you're not even focusing on what you can do to avoid the fire that started the alarm.
And if
So
you need a day, take a day, take an hour. I mean, don't take a month, don't take a week. But it's okay if something is really off and you feel off, it is a-okay to take a day.
mhm.
And I think sometimes people feel like they have to be full throttle all the time. It's that old saying, right? If you're going to go get on a plane and something's happening, put your mask on first. You can't help other people if you're not feeling your own sense of steady.
You mentioned not seeing race or gender or that kind. Well, of course, you can hear in the voices, but I always tell people, I'm blind, so I don't see color. Uh, but as far as it goes, when people everybody has hardship. Everybody, everybody goes through something, and everybody feels it a different way. So there's no way to say that yours isn't the hardest thing that you've ever experienced. But on the flip side of that is that you can't just wallow in that. You can't use it as a crutch or an excuse not to live your life. And that's one of the hardest things for people to get over is just kind of staring at that smoke alarm instead of doing something about it. And
Yep.
so, how, who do you speak to, and how do you convince them that whatever it is, they have financial troubles. It's the economy, the politics, the government. It's their skin color, and they're being oppressed. Whatever it might be, you talk to people, and you tell them. What do you tell them?
It's interesting. Whether it's at the finish line of what you're seeing down the line, whether it's a goal or a fear, you got to work it backwards. So if somebody has that pain or worry or anxiety, I just ask, what is the worst that can happen? Let's go, let's make it the worst. What is the worst? And let's work it back. And when you work it back, yes, worse could be death. Yes, worse could be pain in a certain way. Yes, worse can be more devastation. Okay, great. Now you know the worst case scenario, but how likely is that? What let's go layers forward. And when I work it back with people, they realize that the fear, false evidence appearing real, what they think could happen hasn't happened, but it could happen. But if you spend your life in the could, the shoulda, the woulda, that is a gray zone of life that does not mentally serve you in the today. Again, coming from someone who just got hit by a car last year, right? That could have been lights out for Nancy. That could have been it. And you have to make every minute count. I'm no longer going to keep thinking about the future fears because that doesn't serve me. I've only got today. I might get hit by another car tomorrow. Let's knock on wood and hope not. But, but you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now, take that same philosophy with a goal. I really want to buy a house. I really want the love of my life. I really want this. I really want that. Work it back. What people might need you to have in your life to cheer you on, to support you to get there? What money might it take, a class, investing in a website, whatever? What time might it take reasonably to make that goal come true? So, whether it's a
Mhm.
goal or whether it's a fear, it's about working it back to the present.
I love that. I thought though fear stood for F everything and run.
No,
No,
that's too scary.
I like yours better.
Yeah, there you go.
Uh, just thinking of that joke, I forgot what was the real question. Uh, but you're absolutely right. One of the favorite lines or mantras or whatever in the military is, "But did you die? That worth it." So it's giving something a try. Who cares about the fear? It's about working through fear, and of course, military. It's all about moving forward, not because the absence of fear, but despite it. And
And I was just going to add to that, there is, choose your words. I had a friend of mine one time, her name is Becky, one of my best friends, and her little kiddo came up to her and he was mumbling
mhm.
about something. And she said, choose your words. What are you trying to say? And that always stuck with me because I want people to choose their words. It's also one, yes, we can try things in life, but it's stronger rather than a try and a hope. I'm going to try to walk the dogs. I hope I brush my teeth. Be more convicted. I will walk the dogs. I can brush my teeth. And those are silly examples,
Mhm.
but what you say leads what you will do.
The words we use have a lot more power than we really believe, and it's not some of that woo woo. What is it? The secret or you know, think it, say it, believe it type of thing. It's true though. I mean, I experienced it myself when losing my eyesight in the hospital, believing that my life was over.
Yeah.
And it was, I can't do this anymore. I can't be that anymore. I can't be a husband, a father. I can't drive. I can't do this, that. And it was a whole lot of I can'ts. And I was putting walls up all around myself and trapping myself into my situation.
Yep.
And just turning around and saying, how can I? It changed the entire paradigm of my life, the entire perspective. And uh, and like you, I, I just started doing something, and you can try and fail. That failure isn't the end of the world.
Yeah, that the N apostrophe T words, that's another gray zone. They're right in that gray zone again. So
Hmm.
stay in the lane of possibility, stay in the lane of positivity.
So, what's getting you excited now? What gets you jumping out of bed and excited for the day?
Well, to be honest, I like you, I'm a person of service. I literally leap out of bed thinking, what's going to happen today? What's going to
Hmm.
happen? Now, hopefully, it's not getting bit hit by a car, right? But I love running my company. I love getting calls from people on my team. I love seeing what gets created. And I really love light bulb moments when somebody cracks the code on something and they're proud of it. When a revelation comes around the corner and they're like, ah, got it. I love those moments and I want it for them. I want it for the company. But I also, when I do like prep calls before all of my interviews, I love hearing how somebody talking out their own story might see a parallel that they've never seen before. Gosh, I didn't realize my dad had an alcohol problem. I wonder if 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 we function the same way. And not me personally, but I'll talk to the person I'm interviewing, and they'll talk out their story, and then we'll talk about their dad's story, and there are parallels. So it's that moment. which is pretty impressive.
That's fantastic, and I love that you're again being of service.
Yeah.
You're sharing your wisdom, your experience with others, and for somebody who's hurting right now, somebody who's trapped in that fear, trapped in their you're focusing on the pain. What do you think it would be? What would you say their first step should be?
Well, it depends on the pain. If the pain is an internal sabotaging, I hate myself pain, or if it is a pain of the world and you know, it's a different pain. So if somebody is dealing with the I don't like myself pain, then you have to start there. You have to start with writing things down or even starting like an audio diary. And when you are sad, cry it out on paper or audio. When you are mad, yell it out, paper and audio. You sometimes almost have to hear that emotion to appreciate it. So, for example, in my coaching practice, I have a lot of people that do the audio version, and they'll even just leave themselves voicemails. And it's funny how, in the moment when you're sad and you're angry, see, when we're angry, it's a fear of something. When we're
Mm-hmm.
sad, that's our emotions, it's energy in motion. So you get around the bend another day when you're not feeling so bad, you pull out that recorder and you hear yourself in pain, and you can hear yourself differently than you heard yourself in the moment. And sometimes you have to hear yourself in order to get that growth. Now, there's plenty of other people that are afraid of crowds, afraid of shootings, afraid of stalkers, afraid of all sorts of things. And that, afraid of being scammed, right? That holds them back from wanting to do things and embrace people out in the public. But you don't have to go to a beach concert. You don't have to go to a large grocery store. Start small. Go to a small grocery store, a local one. Start getting yourself outside and get somebody to go with you. And or a lot of times it's okay to find out, okay, I'm going to go into the store. Where is the back door? If something should happen, where's my escape plan? Perfectly fine. Somebody might say, well, that's a little OCD, a little over the top, isn't it? No, not if you have a fear. If you have a fear that you're going to be trapped, you have a fear that something could happen, then don't pick a restaurant where it's one door in and out, right? Maybe
Mm-hmm.
sit in the back by the back door. Like whatever makes you feel comfortable, to maybe don't sit in the seat that faces the door. Don't have your back to the door. Maybe face the front of the door, right? So you can see more things. So there's ways in which people can do things to get out of that place of just feeling stuck.
That's fantastic. Well, I think that's a great place to segue into our final segment, the countdown to impact. This is three books, two quotes, and one person who have all made an impact in your life.
Mhm. So, one of my favorite books is a series, and it's the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. Now, it's interesting. I read that as a little girl, and I've read them into my adulthood. And it actually is very much in a line with what we're talking about today, right? We all have a story, share our story, be of service. Like hearing people's stories, and Chicken Soup for the Soul has many different layers of stories. Chicken Soup for the Soul if you're a senior, Chicken Soup for the Soul if you're blind, right? It's great. I highly recommend you check those out. A second one I really like is How to Win Friends and Influence People. Because I think it's not about manipulating people, it's about making an impact, influencing people. Friends can be on, there can be so many variations of friends. They're all around us.
Mm-hmm.
And the last one is actually a book called The Five Love Languages, because I really believe that it goes twofold. We each, out of the five love languages, there's two that are dominant. I'm not going to give them all away. You guys got to read the book, but you got to figure out what is yours. Is your love language touch? Is your love language service? But then the interesting thing is when you're looking for a partner, a friend, business partner, right? Intimate partner, business partner, whatever, but mainly on the intimate side, what is their love language? And do your love languages match? And are you giving to someone thinking, well, gosh, if my love language is affirmations, surely theirs is? No, you want to know their love language. If their love language is service, they're going to feel more loved by you cleaning the toilet, by you making the breakfast, right? Versus somebody who's a lover of affirmations, they will love hearing, I love you, I'm proud of you. So those are definitely my three top books.
I'm fluent in all five languages, but that's just because I really love attention.
Yep. Well, that's
I'm
okay. That's okay. You're in love. You're a lover. That's the big thing.
all right. Two quotes and one person.
The quotes are hard because there's so many good ones. I
Mm.
mean, there's a quote that I've always loved, which is, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. And I'm a planner, right? But the truth is, the minute you think it's all going to be figured out and in a snap, it's not. It's life just has to be felt. It has to be felt through, and you can't rush that. And when it's like those old books, and I'm not sure how old everybody is on this show listening, but there used to be those adventure books where you used to be able to pick your ending, and life is that adventure. You've got to get to that crossroad and pick your ending. Now, the next quote that I love is nothing sensational. It's more of a slogan than it is anything else, and it's one of mine. And that is, you don't need sight to have vision. And obviously, Aaron, you and I, we don't have vision, right? But I really believe that you don't need sight to have vision. You don't need to touch to experience, to taste, to experience. Well, I talked about earlier how I feel so grateful for all my senses. I really believe that we have many different outlets for how we can visualize our world. And whatever lane of disability you're in, whether it's a physical disability, emotional, that heartbreak, lean on everything else and you'll have that vision for your life. And what was the last question?
One person who's made an impact in your life.
Well, that would definitely be on a family side, my friends, but my mom is my number one. And she taught me, as that single mom with three blind daughters, to shoot for the moon, to take that blank canvas and draw whatever colors, whatever design I want. I also, though, want to thank Oprah, because back when I was a 10-year-old girl sitting on the couch watching Oprah, like so many did, I thought, man, I want to do that for a living. That's why I got my degree in psychology and broadcasting. I figured, here she is interviewing people, broadcasting, and they're talking about, deep topics, psychology. And as I went along in my broadcasting career, the funny thing was, again, if you want to make God laugh, telling her plans, the world did not need another Oprah. The quest for me was to figure out who was Nancy. And now, as a broadcaster, I'm very clear on who is Nancy. And I'm very clear on how my interviews make an impact in the world.
Does Nancy give free cars to all of her audience?
You get a car, and you get a car. Not yet, but I'll tell you what, you get your goal, you get your dream. That's the space
Yeah,
I'm in.
I
Yep,
I would want to be in the audience because I'm a huge fan
there you go.
and a new car vehicle.
Yes.
Nancy, thank you very much. Before I let you go, I've got two more questions.
Yep.
One is, where can people find out more?
They can go to the main hub of livingfullout.com. When you go there, you're going to have an option for the TV show. You can learn more about that. The radio show, you can learn more about that. We also have an advice column called Ask Nancy, so people can write in around questions they're facing to connect at livingfullout.com. And through the advice column, we write you back. With the radio show, you can call in and ask me questions live during the show, and I'll give you kind of on the spot coaching there. We are all about helping people. And again, all the socials, right? Facebook, X, Instagram, Twitter, if we call it that, X Twitter, Pinterest, LinkedIn. Yeah, let's motivate together. It just takes reaching out.
Terrific. And we will get that into the show notes. Last question. Nancy, what does living a life of impact mean to you?
It means that when when people leave their experience with me, if I'm not in the same room as them, if they have a moment with me, they walk away and they say to someone, wow, Nancy, she's really kind. I want to be kind. I want to be known for being smart. I want to be known for being someone who tells the truth. I want someone to be known as someone who walks the walk and the talk, right? And so living life fully means that I'm well thought of, not in a look at me, but in a legacy building way. And if that can be achieved, it's not about the accolades. Having great achievements, yes, but it's when I'm no longer here or when I'm not in the room, I want to be well thought of.
Well, Nancy, thank you very much for sharing your time, your story, experience, and your incredible outlook on life. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me. Really been a pleasure.
And folks, thank you very much for tuning in. Please like and subscribe. Go to Nancy's website, livingfullout.com, and make sure you're following right away. Do that now. And until next time,